there are very strong programs when it comes to divorce in our human consciousness. It's definitely the energies of it in the third dimensional. It's shunned almost. It's shameful. It's seen as a failure. It must be a battle. You must fight each other. You must hate each other. Your children must be negatively screwed up afterwards, negatively impacted. It must cost you a lot of money. It must take years of your life. And then after the divorce, you're going to continue to live in this space that doesn't feel good. You're never going to be the same.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Daily Soul Bytes Show. This is really where we interview guest authors, coaches, and entrepreneurs in the fields of spirituality, psychology, and leadership who are sharing their insights for the expansion of collective consciousness. I am your host, Bolaabimbola, frequency alchemist, author, as well as energy practitioner. And really, this is a wonderful guest that we have on today. We are now in season 4. So it's really interesting for us to continue to bring our experts on to share different aspects of life. Jen Michelle Love is our guest today. Welcome to the show, Jen.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and have this conversation with you.
I love that, Jen. Thank you for coming, because I think divorce has a lot of connotations in our day-to-day, in our contemporary lives. And I do want to hear your perspective as to how you are now supporting your clients to move into that place of 5D consciousness when it comes to divorce. I read a bit about you before we start, Jen. Love is an attorney, a mediator, intuitive health and wellness life coach. Beyond her 19 years of divorce legal mediation, Jen's work focuses on helping individuals achieve balance in their mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual selves. She assists clients in tuning into their inner guidance and truth, navigating life's transitions, and transcending limiting beliefs. This is really about how we can transcend this issue of divorce. So thank you, Jen. So tell us, why did you come to this place, or how did you come to this place where you are now talking about divorce? What led you to a passion in supporting many of us in going through divorce in a different way?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. So my career started in 2006 when I graduated law school. And for the first 9 years, I was representing, one person in a divorce and serving as the zealous advocate as a litigation attorney. And then children came into my life. And when children came into my life, that was 2011 until 2014. Bam, bam, bam. I had 3 kids in 39 months. When my kids came in, they made me realize the work that I was doing in that courtroom setting, and by serving as that zealous advocate and fighting for one person's best interest. My kids provided me with the space to really understand family and children and parenting, and how divorce is just one part of our journey. And when children are involved, the parents must continue a relationship in some way, shape, or form. And so, as my spiritual journey has evolved, at that point in 2014, I stopped litigating and I moved solely into mediating, which means I can work with both people, going through a divorce, and I'm a neutral. So I'm not fighting, I'm not causing any stress or aggravation. It's actually the complete opposite. And I loved how you brought up the 5th dimensional energies earlier, because that really is the space of solace. I mean, that is where this legal practice is now, is very much rooted in the 5th dimensional energies, and really focused on empowerment and learning more about the self and about the journey and who you are and what you want, and switching to a space of gratitude, for our partner, for all of the experiences that we shared. And when children, are part of this, for these amazing kids that wouldn't be these kids without that other person. And, I think going through divorce, it's also having gratitude for the very difficult reflections that are being shown to you, by this person, that are really reflecting some very deep-seated beliefs that most likely were created in childhood, that we have used to just kind of navigate our life and have the same situation happening over and over and over again. And so, there's so many gifts to divorce. It can be and I think it can be, absolutely one of the most transformative experiences of a person's life if it's done mindfully and with intentionality and love.
Thank you so much, Jen. Honestly, this for me is such a critical topic, and I've been divorced twice, and my first divorce was very different from the second one. And really, this is about how do we come to see our relationships from a place of love as opposed to from a place of fear. There is that natural fear that we have. We are only human. And I love that you mentioned something around the childhood responses that come up, the way we are triggered from our childhood experiences. Really, I wanted us to talk a bit more about how we can come to experience divorce and see divorce in a different way. Because some relationships we know are not meant to be for a lifetime. We do not know it at the start, but in retrospect, we can see that actually, I know now why I did this that way. I know now why this relationship did not work. It served its purpose. But how do we come to move forward when we have come to realize that we have come to the end of this journey with this person? So I'll ask you, what are the very first steps? I want us to clarify what the 5D experience is at some point. But so somebody who is going through, is in a relationship and they are aware that this is something that is not going to go on for much longer. What are the very first steps that you would advise in order for them to experience this transition in a different, more loving, more empowered way?
Oh, that's wonderful to ask that for people listening, who are potentially in that space of kind of really sitting with, ooh, is this marriage serving me anymore? And I think that is the foundational question, always is this experience continuing to serve me in the way that I desire to be served and in a way that is in alignment with my highest and greatest version of self, So I think a lot of times with divorce, especially in the very beginning stages, people can fall into, and I'm excited we're going to talk about 5D and 3D, and just real quick, and just kind of one differentiator between the two is in the third dimensional, which is the world that, we live in. We live in the 5D too, but with all the systems and programs, that space is very much externalized. So the family law court system is a very good example of a third dimensional system where everything in there, and this equates, ties into your question with people, because I think they're programmed to think, ooh, he did this, she said this is what happened. And it's all external. And then they start talking to their friends and their family. Oh my gosh, can you believe this happened? And just feeding these external energies. The advice that I would give to anyone listening, who's in that space of really reflecting upon their marriage and determining if it is, still serving, is to stop externalizing. It has nothing to do with what your spouse is saying or doing, and it has everything to do with you. So shifting it to a space of you, and asking those questions, am I happy in this relationship in this capacity? Because I think that's another space that, is very third dimensional, is like, it's either you're married or you're in love or you're divorced and you hate each other. And, shifting into the fifth dimensional space, it's very much like what the image I just did. It's much more flowy in the 5D, meaning, and the fifth dimension is just it's a different energetic vibration. It's higher, it's rooted in the third dimensional energies, can be rooted in fear, in anger, in, distrust, in frustration. And all of those feelings come up for people when they're really contemplating about their marriage. And especially when the answer that they're receiving is no, this is not working anymore. A lot of those third dimensional energies will rise up. And that's kind of the fight or flight then that comes in. Whereas I encourage people shift into this fifth dimensional way of being, which is, it's very fluid. There's many different forms of relationships. There's many different types of love. It doesn't need to be so boxy. It doesn't need to feel so scary. It can be very open and flowy, and recognizing that every relationship space is teaching you something. You're learning from every space. And that's the real question is, okay, what is this showing me? What is this happening for me? Like, why is this happening for me? What am I meant to learn from this? So I strongly would recommend people spend a lot of time in nature, when they're contemplating not only their marriage, any big decision. Nature is going to help quiet the noise of the 3D and help connect you to the 5D. And your inner guidance always knows the way. And really, when we're trying to hold on to something so tightly, because our conscious mind is telling us, "Ooh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm married till death do us part. I need to stay here." The conscious mind thinking. It's like we're missing out on the present moment. We're missing out on the magic that is wishing to unfold for you in your life because you're trying to figure it out and stay so tightly in something. So yeah, I guess my strongest recommendations, my love, would be go in nature, bring a journal with you and really think about, is this serving you? And if it is, amazing. And if it's not, then what is this teaching you? What is this reflection teaching you? What belief do you have within yourself that this is what's meant to happen?
Thank you so much, Jen. And I love the way you're distinguishing between that third density and the fifth density, because the soul, which is what we all are, each of us is a soul, part of the infinite universe, part of God. And that soul exists in the physical form and in the spiritual form. And when we step away from what is going on in that physical reality, that experience, that very real experience, we can come to be more in touch with that soul aspect of us, with that spirit soul aspect of us, because that is where our infinite wisdom lies. And we can get support from the wider system around us. And I'd love you to talk a bit about that. I know your work also involves once they have, once somebody who is thinking about divorce, and we know when that point comes, sometimes, mediation will work before you, and you may have mediation and then go back into the marriage. But you may have mediation knowing that this is going to end. But life after divorce takes a lot of mindfulness in order to enjoy that space. But I'd love you to share with us some of the things that does encourage, somebody who is living in that third density has heard about what life is like in fourth density, because in fourth density, we are also still very physical. But that spirit self that is in fifth density is what is driving the third and the fourth density. And how can we really begin to understand what lies in that fifth dimension, that fifth density? What is there to support us? And how can we become more mindful, more aware? Because it's only when we begin that journey, when we are inspired to begin that journey, do we come to experience life, including divorce, in a very different way. How can those who are really wanting to connect more with the support that exists in that fifth density, what would you say?
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. I'm so excited for people listening who maybe this is, maybe they don't know a ton about this. But I feel right now in the human consciousness, people understand, they can feel what you're saying, Bola. They can feel it. Even if they don't understand it, it's almost like the human consciousness, all the souls are like, ooh, we want to learn, we want to learn, we want to feel good too. Because that third dimensional space, and really, I mean, you can think of all, and I don't watch the news. I have not watched the news since I was pregnant with my eldest, and he's 14. Intentionally, I'm not interested in any of that. I'm not interested in being distracted. So that's one thing to think about from the third to the fifth is really. I think the third to the fifth for me is very much not the external and shifting it all internal. It's all for me. I'm living basically in a holographic universe, and everything that is presenting in the outside experience for me is really just reflecting inner beliefs that I have. So I think that's one really big shift, is shifting to the self, and really with that shift comes some very deeply profound insights, such as, ooh, I am the creator of my life. I create my life. I'm not a puppet. I'm not to be controlled. No one is to be controlled. I am the creator of my life. And I think another deeply profound insight that comes with the shift of stopping, being external. This is happening. This is happening. This is right, wrong, good or bad, releasing all of that and going into the space of the fifth where, you recognize that you are, I think, my daily practice is to connect with myself, make sure that I'm connected to myself and make sure that I'm open to connecting with others and ensure that I'm connecting with this beautiful earth. I think the fifth dimension, I think the third dimension has a lot of isolation. I think that's why there's a lot of, drugs and alcohol and depression and, people who just really aren't physically healthy. Really toxic relationships. I think all of those are, and I'm not labeling them, I just think they're byproducts of the extreme loneliness that is in that space, because no one is feeling very connected. Whereas the fifth dimension is very much connection and love and growth and empowerment. And so things, that people can do, I'm sure you and I, my love, could put together like a list of things we do every day, and that would help, but I mean, even just this morning, where I am, it's 11:30 in the morning. And I woke up this morning. I did a gratitude practice. I went to the gym and I swam and sat in the hot tub and sat in the sauna. I came home and I did breath work, for 40 minutes, where you're breathing differently, being guided. And then I did my daily manifestation ritual, took my kids, so like being mindful with your time too. I think a lot of time is really kind of wasted in the third dimension, because I don't think people even know what fun they could have if they, were using their time more mindfully. So breath work, meditation, exercise for sure. Being mindful of what you're putting in your body. So drinking a lot of water, making sure you're eating foods that feel good, in your body, that are alive, high vibrational foods, reading, minimizing screen time, being aware of the people who you're communicating with and connecting with in person and via text or whatever. But recognizing everything is energy. So it's very much a practice of being diligent about your energy and how you can raise that energy so we can really, create our dream life. Those are kind of a bunch of different things they can do. And I have all of them. I know we talked about the book, but I have all of them in this book, Shine, Soul, Shine, which is really, it's 30 days of self-discovery and healing through divorce. And it really goes through and shares different practices you can do. And it's meant to be very easy, where you just kind of flip the book and you pick a page and it's like, ooh, I'm going to do this today. Whatever it's telling you to do, just focusing energies towards that. And that, this will be, I swear, girl, I could talk about the fifth dimension all day, but I'm going to stop. But that's another part of the shift from the third to the fifth. And the third, with the political system and education system and legal and medical and all of these systems that are just broken and don't work anymore. And everyone's trying so hard to fit in them, and everyone's so stressed out and feeling gross. You know, in that space, most often, if you ask someone, like, how are you doing? They'll be like, oh, you know, different day, same garbage or whatever. You know, I think the shift to the fifth, which is this book, is we can embrace magic. We can live in a space of magic. You know, we live in this beautiful, beautiful world and universe on this gorgeous planet. And, you know, our guides and angels, masters, ancestors, they're always wanting us to live in alignment and to reach our highest and greatest version of self. Because when we're doing that, we're healing our lineage, you know, our ancestral ways of being and habits and patterns and thoughts and traumas that have kept our lineage in a certain space. And so when we're doing this, it's so much more than just for me or for you or, you know, for our children or for our friends and family. It really is for our ancestral line and for the world.
Honestly, I totally agree with you, Jen. There is that need for us to step away from the third density, and how we do that in, you know, listening to you talk about how we can have much more wider support at the spiritual realm to enable us to feel a lot more love, a lot more release. You know, you have worked with over 500 clients doing your mediation. You know, this is bringing both sides together and trying to allow that passage, that portal, to be a little bit less fearful. What are some of the limiting beliefs, the kind of, you know, ongoing patterns that you have experienced or you have observed? Because it's the limiting beliefs that really stop us from going through this transition, this portal. I really think divorce is a portal. It's a portal that enables us to step onto our next levels, because these are journeys. These relationships are meant to be stepping stones. Some relationships take us for a longer period of time than others. And how do we use these stepping stones in a way that really gives us our best outcomes? This is some of the work that I do as a Reiki energy practitioner, working with my clients, working with consciousness. How consciousness can move through the timelines in a much more simpler way, in a much more synchronistic way. How do you support your clients to acknowledge, recognize and acknowledge, become more aware of the limiting patterns that exist, and how to move through those patterns? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about different body consciousnesses that we're moving into. When we come out of that divorce, we're a different person. We're not the same person that was in that divorce, that was in that marriage. So how do we come to terms with those new, you know, with that new version of us? And what stops us from engaging with that new version of us? So there are limiting beliefs before the divorce, and there are limiting beliefs after the divorce.
Yes.
Support your client to really go through these different phases in order for them to really own this life that we have really come to experience. How do you support them to go through this portal of divorce?
I love you. And I love the work that you do. And that's one way that I help support them, is I refer out to other healers and say, try this, you know, try lots of things when you're going through this experience, because it is not easy. You know, it is definitely a dark night of the soul experience. You know, I think, I mean, everything that you're sharing, of course, resonates so strongly. And it's like, yes, it is all those things. Divorce is 100% a portal. It 100% is. I think the limiting beliefs really, and the way that I communicate them with my clients, the limiting beliefs, I call them programs. And actually do this when I tell them, I'm like, you are programmed, because we are. That's the thing, is all of us have been programmed since we were born. From 0 to 7 to 9 years old, we're in the theta brainwave state, which means we're just absorbing every single thing that our family, you know, typically, because we're spending the most commonly with our family, so our mom and dad or whoever is part of that container. And yeah, I think it's programs. I really do. I think there are very strong programs when it comes to divorce in our human consciousness. It's definitely the energies of it in the third dimensional. It's shunned almost. It's shameful. It's seen as a failure. It must be a battle. You must fight each other. You must hate each other. Your children must be negatively screwed up afterwards, negatively impacted. It must cost you a lot of money. It must take years of your life. And then after the divorce, you're going to continue to live in this space that doesn't feel good. You're never going to be the same. And I think, that last part, you're never going to be the same, is true. You're not. Like you just said, you're a different version of yourself. You've learned so much from that experience that you have grown and you've healed different things, and you're a completely different version of self. And so throughout the solace journey, I've handbooks that help, with this whole narrative about the programming. I have a legal handbook that helps my clients know all the legal stuff we're going to talk about, but I have an emotional handbook. And the very first part of the emotional handbook is about beliefs and how powerful your beliefs are. And I think a lot of people up until now, maybe, haven't spent a lot of time questioning what beliefs they have about anything, really. The first thing that came to me right now to share about belief is money. There's so much, mindset of scarcity and fear and stress around money, and money is energy, and those beliefs come down through the lineage, and that's the belief. And then that's the experience that you have. And it's the same with divorce. So I think with my clients, we do, it's a journey. So the first session is called the onboarding Zoom. And in that Zoom, I guide them through this mirror exercise. And the first thing I share with them is that, the contract of marriage is a very strong contract. It's a legal contract, of course, which is what brings me, connected to my clients, which is almost, it's just so funny in a way, because out of everything, and I tell them this, out of everything that is going on in your journey of self right now, the legal stuff is the easiest, most minuscule part of what is happening. The bigger part of this contract is the soul contract. And I think if we can, and that's, that is my mission now, is to talk about this way of looking at divorce. It's not about what he did or she did or they did or whatever. It doesn't, none of that matters. What matters is the soul contract of marriage means that person is the only person who can reflect things to you that your soul came here to learn and to heal, and that you came to grow from. And so that's part of how I help my clients kind of get out of their programs, is I share with them spiritual principles of, like, before you were born, the two of you were sitting on a cloud, talking about all the things you want to learn and you want to heal in this lifetime, for your lineage, for yourself, for your children, for everyone, for the world. What you didn't learn in a past life because you didn't learn the lesson through love, it was learned in a different way that wasn't in alignment. So you have a conversation on a cloud and say, these are all the things I want to learn. And your spouse is like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Like, that's a lot, in one lifetime. You want to do that in one lifetime? And you're like, yes, I do, and then your spouse is like, okay, we're going to meet at this time, in our life, after all this other stuff happened, we're going to meet here. We're going to be married for this long. And in that amount of time, we're going to reflect to each other, and I'm going to destroy you. Like, I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to play the part perfectly, because that's the only way that you're going to learn what you want to learn, what you just shared with me. And I love you so much that I'm going to do this for you. And I think, at least I've been doing this work for 10 years now. And in the beginning, it was kind of like toes in the water. Like, okay, I'm not going to fight. We're not going to fight. We're going to make this nicer. And now, where we're at now in the solace journey, I almost feel like it's like an introduction course to the fifth dimension, and again, like the fifth dimension, the introduction course, it's not like a separate space. It's just living differently. And I feel like I'm sharing different understandings or teachings with my clients that can help them embrace that within themselves, of recognizing, the programs are telling you that divorce is all this stuff, but just because, the programs are telling you that, because it has been that way for generations of time. And for generations of time, people have used this family law court system where they each get their own attorney who do all the talking for them. And they give all of their power to decide anything about their children, anything about their marital property, away to a complete stranger who's never met them. This is a job for all of those people, and I understand why. I understand the reason that the energies are attached to divorce, because in that venue, the family law court, there's no love. There's no talk of gratitude or forgiveness or growth or healing, or how your children chose you to be their parents, and how, if you have children, you are in a relationship until the rest of your life with this person. And what do you want it to look like and feel like? And how do you want it to be for your kids? None of that is in that court system. The court system is all about externalizing. He did this, she said that, he's a bad father, she's a bad mother, he's a bad person, she's a bad person, and we want to win, and there is no winning when it comes to divorce. It's such an individual experience, and everyone is receiving different messages and lessons and learnings from it, that it isn't, so the programs make sense of why they are there. But that's kind of I feel the new way of divorcing is really with love, and gratitude and mindfulness, and stepping into that space of empowerment of saying, you know what, I am the best authority to be in this conversation and make agreements with my spouse of what's best for our children, who we know better than anyone else. We've known since the day we found out we were pregnant. And I also am the best authority to have a conversation and reach agreements of what is fair and equitable for the asset and debt division, for the sport calculations, for those extra expenses for our kids. And that shift is really, again, in the third dimensional court system, external. The attorney's arguing, the judge is making the decision. All of it is from the past. It's like, it's not even here anymore. Whereas in the mediation space, that container, all of that is quiet, and it's me who's a neutral, guiding these two souls that are going through this major experience in their life that is so beautiful. It's so difficult. It's so dark. It's so hard, as Bola. And I would love to hear about the differences from the first to second, because I'm curious. So yeah, in this container, I love that I can give them, I can guide them. I can share with them, there's breath work that you can do that will help you. And there are times frequently that I do breath work in the mediation session with my clients just to shift the energies a little. And I always have candles lit and incense burning, and I have Palo Santo and sage, and I always have my crystals. And so I'm always doing things on my side it's very ceremonial, from my space that I'm sharing into that container.
I love the fact that you have explained why those limiting beliefs exist, because the third density, the court systems and the conditioning, the programs there, it explains it all. And it's about choosing what we want to do differently. And that is what I went through in my first divorce. After 12 years of marriage, 2 kids, it wasn't something that I accepted quite easily. And it was very acrimonious. And it took years for us to come back to actually parent our children in a different way. Because sometimes that kind of limiting relationship affects how you come to parent, the children later on.
Totally. Yes.
So it is such an interesting, event that can impact, the rest of the lives of other people who you have brought into the world. So it's a very, very important thing to be mindful of. So the second time around, after 3 years of marriage, I know that I was coming to the end of this relationship. And it was very clear to me that I could no longer, some boundaries had been broken, and I could no longer stay here. And it was much swifter. It was, I would probably do it with much more love now, but it was better than the first time round because I made up my mind quite quickly. And it was about communication. And we both knew it was a mutual thing. We both knew that this would no longer work. And that
Mm,
communication is important, but it really starts from within, knowing within yourself that you can no longer do something, being very clear within yourself. And it's about reunion with your own self, your own truths, your own values, what makes you happy, understanding that your languages of love are not being spoken to you. And this allows us to then take action, and we are received in a different way. When we are crystal clear within our own self, that reflection responds to us in a very different way. So I love all the things you're saying about how we need to go within, how we need to be clearer about what we do want, what we do not want, and how we become much more aware of that spirit self within us, which we can
mm,
become one way. It's a journey, but we start with every single level. With every single level we're moving to, we are reconnecting, having that reunion with self. Because the self
yes.
you united with before the divorce is different from the self that is reuniting with your spirit self after divorce. You're jumping timelines. Consciousness is jumping timelines
Yes.
continuously. So you're having to that self that understood the reason for divorce may not be the self that is understanding the divorce after the divorce. So there are certain things that you will have to
Yeah.
remembering, certain things that you will have to keep understanding about the reasons why you are where you are. And I'd love you to share with us, Jen, what is it that is in your book? What can somebody who's going through divorce, what will they benefit? What does it contain for them?
Mine Soul Shine is written from a divine goddess voice. And so everyone who reads, this book is going to have that love and that nurturing energy, towards their healing. And the book was written because I know, when people are going through divorce, it's so dark. It's so lonely. You can talk to people until you're blue in the face about what's going on. And even if they've gone through a divorce, no one understands it. No one understands it, which is what I think, brings you to the loneliness, which is what I feel is necessary. That deep, dark loneliness is so necessary in order to receive the gift of self-love. But you have to go through it, in order to get to the space of emerging more aligned with yourself, of who you are and what you want, and loving every morsel of yourself. You have to love yourself, and so um, this book helps guide people, through that darkness and to emerge back into the light. And as I shared, it's written from this goddess, feminine energy perspective, or through her voice. It's not even perspective, it's through her voice. And so it's recognizing that a lot of times when people are going through divorce, they do get depressed, and they can't talk to people maybe about it, and they maybe can't leave their home. And so this is 30 days of things that they can do within the solace of their own home and their own space to help them receive those insights that you were just referencing, like to better understand the reason, why did this person come into my life, and why did we have children together, and why is this happening now, and what is the bigger meaning, what have I learned from a deeper level from this relationship. And I do, if it's all right with you, I would love to share a little on children, because in your share, you talked about children
Yes.
and how the two of you had to refine your way back, to be able to parent your kids. And I think that share is so powerful that number one, that you did that, of course, I love and honor you for doing that work of finding your way back after having such a difficult divorce journey, where you said, there was a lot of fighting. It took a long time. I think a lot of times people who have children will stay in a marriage because they say, oh, the programs, right? The programs they're telling them. Children who come from divorced parents are not as successful as children, who come from parents that stay together. And I just wanted to share, children, and you have kids, I have kids, so we feel them. Anyone out, listening has children can feel this. They're completely energetic. They feel energy and understand energy more than they understand words. I feel where I'm at with connecting with children, they feel everything. And so that's why I think it's so important, for people to recognize that mediation, I think people have another program about mediation. They're like, oh, you have to get along to mediate. It's like, you have to have all your agreements to mediate. It's like, no, none of that is true. You don't need to get along. You don't need to have your agreements. You need to have a shared desire, to go through the journey in a more mindful, kind, loving, less harsh way that is focused on your children. You both need that. And people come to, my mediation practice for all different reasons. I find the feminine energy really likes, the spirituality and likes the journal prompts that I send every week and likes the meditation and the breath work and loves the mirror exercise and really loves to just kind of process everything. I find the masculine energy clients, they are more drawn to, how fast everything is as opposed to the court setting. The cost, is a fraction compared to litigation. And they also are happy that their feminine energy counterpart is calm. So what I'm getting at is mediation doesn't require you to have all your agreements. It doesn't require you to get along. The mediator is the one who's going to guide you through everything. And I think in the space and container of mediation is where we can really exercise mindfulness towards our children of, okay, let's, as the two adult people, the parents who are getting a divorce, like, let's step out of our stuff for a moment and let's focus on our children. And how do we want this to look for us? Like when we're talking to each other, when we're seeing each other, how do we want to feel? Do we want to feel like, oh gosh, I've talked to this person again, or like irritated, by all of it? Or, can we shift to a space of recognizing you can still love one another after divorce? You can still have fun with one another. You can still be joyful. You can be, one of the biggest cheerleaders for one another, saying, I want you to do it. I want you to do your dream life. I want you to attract love again. I want you to attract abundance. I want you to attract all of your dreams manifesting in the physical. And I think as a consciousness, when we can shift to that space, as, shattering the programs and recognize divorce doesn't need to be any of the things we said the programs say it is, and it can be something different. That's when, now we have children who are witnessing, not only seeing, but feeling, because they're energetic beings. They're feeling their parents navigating their journey from a space of authenticity, of saying, this is not serving me in this capacity anymore. And so we're going to do something different. And not only are we going to do something different, it's not going to be haphazard. We're not going to have attorneys fighting and a judge telling us what we're going to do. We are going to communicate and create a whole new space of relationship that feels good for both of us and the kids. And I always encourage my clients, talk to your children, share with them what's going on, because I think the old way, I'm 48. So when I was raised, it was very much, parents and children, children should be seen and not heard. And I think, with this whole shift into this new space, and we are the same. Our children teach us just as much as we teach them. And so now instead of divorce being this taboo, oh, we can't talk about it, our children are going to be, devastated. It's like, no, now we're having an open conversation. The energy isn't externalized of divorce. The energy is focused on, I am on my own journey of path. Your dad or your mom is on his or her or their own journey of of self on our own path. And we've reached a point where we recognize that our relationship is going to shift into a new space. And we're doing this as a family. And we're always your parents and you're always our children and we're always a family. And there can still be that love, I mean, I go on vacations. My family, my 3 kids and ex-husband, we go on vacations together. We currently are living together. We've been living together for the last 2.5 years, not romantically, but just because we relocated from Chicago to Boulder, Colorado, and it just made more sense for our family. And everything is fluid. Like our kids, their friends, sometimes will comment, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know your parents were divorced." It's like, well, thank you. Thank you for recognizing that we still have love and joy in our family. And we both have found new love. We've attracted new love that is the vibration that we are. And it feels amazing, for everyone in our family. And our family just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And it's like, well, that's fun. It's fun to have more people to love and have fun with and to be supportive of and have support from. So I just wanted to share that about kids, because I think that's a real big hindrance for people, is people are like, "Oh, I couldn't do this for myself because my kids are going to be screwed up." And it's like, if you do it mindfully, everything is in flow and everything is beautiful. And it actually, I think, is empowering for kids to see that, their parents living outside of the programs, navigating their own path and being mindful about it and having conversations about it and going through it, going through the darkness to come out into the light, as opposed to like head in the sand or avoidance completely. So yeah, I think kids from divorce in this way are superpowers, in a way. They're very free. They're not programmed. And their parents who they chose are teaching them this, which is really beautiful.
I love that you mentioned soul contract earlier, Jen, because that family, each and every individual in the family has an individual soul contract with each other, and they're giving us different things. We're giving them different things. And I do love that you have a container, that mediation container that helps both sides to navigate that system before divorce, during divorce, and after divorce. And you've got the book, Shine, Soul, Shine, because it's about the soul shining. It's about the higher frequency of the soul, really guiding us.
Totally.
We cannot go through this in a healthy way without the high frequencies. We cannot get to the other side. We will get through it, but we're going to be dragged through it, but it can happen. It's actually incredible how some things that we think are not possible become possible. To hear that you were living together with your ex and you were also, that could seem impossible in some dimensions or in some densities, but it is possible to have that relationship. It does take work. It does take forgiveness. It does take rising above your own inclinations. It's a dark night of the soul, because I know that I had to put the boys first. I had to put my boys first when I was divorcing their dad. And I had to say, no matter what, they need him. Even if I now no longer want him in my space, they need him. And it was from that logical place that I began the work. Sometimes you can't get there through, because your emotions are too complex. And you just have to let it. You have to allow yourself to start from where you are. Sometimes you can work through the emotions, and sometimes we have to start from, I know that my children would benefit from this. And that is, if that is the case. In some cases, you and your children need to go somewhere else, or in some places, you are not having access to your children for a while. It's such a dynamic, nobody knows what each other's relationship or what outcomes will come from it. But it's about trusting. And I'd love you to talk a bit about that. How do we trust to step into that place of higher frequencies? Because I have Daily Soul Bytes is a book I wrote in 2023, and it was published by Bola Press, a division of Hay House. And it really talks about the different
Love Hay House.
perspectives. There is the lower perspectives of self that, usually around fear, around anxiety, around how the past is going to be repeated. And there's also the higher perspectives of self. They're all within us. Those higher perspectives are based on gratitude, on unconditional love, on trust, knowing that we are supported, knowing that there's infinite wisdom within us. Infinite wisdom within us is going to guide us. And we can have perspectives around that. So those two perspectives are within us. And my book, Daily Soul Bytes, really activates an understanding of the different perspectives within us for us to become more aware that when I'm thinking something is not going to work, when I'm in fear, there is also within me another perspective that is about love, support, and gratitude and forgiveness. And so how do you, support your clients? Because it's the higher frequencies of trust and love that will get us to that place where we are living our best outcomes before, during, and after divorce. I almost feel it's like menopause, pre-menopause.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have those different stages, and it's going. I have frequencies that will take us through it. How do you support your clients, Jen, to really continue to hold on to those higher frequencies through those stages, to come out on the other side with a much more empowered, synchronistic version of self?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest contributor that I share with them is doing the work myself. I mean, I make it a point. I spend at least an hour every day outside. And I love that you brought up, fear and love, because, I coach my clients all the time. Our emotions are guides. When we're not feeling amazing, when we're feeling scared, when we're feeling stressed, when we're feeling angry, when we're feeling anything lower, heavier, that's a sign that whatever we're focusing our energies on is not in alignment with our soul's mission and path. And I also love that you brought up, a couple of times, the faith and the trust and belief. I mean, those, I say those words to myself daily, many times a day of, I have full faith and trust and belief that I am being guided on my path. The reason I spend time in nature is because nature teaches us the ways of the universe and how it all works. And, saying this, people listening may be like, what is she talking about? But, we are the trees. The trees are us. We are the sky. We are the squirrels. We are the birds. We are the breeze. And they are all us. And so, me spending, my practice is my life. It's not like, oh, I'm going to meditate today. It's like, no, this is part of what I do, every day to be in this higher frequency space. And so during the mediation, I know my clients can feel it because they commented on it. They can feel my energy is different than like a normal attorney, or which is always in my favor. That is when the programs are in my favor, is because I have been a licensed attorney for 19 years. I was in the courtroom as a litigation attorney for 9 of those years. And so the programs are helping me in that space or in that regard, where it's helping my clients to be like, okay, if the programs are telling me she's smart, she's done this for a long time, I can trust her. And I think then what happens, kind of the magic of the Solace mediation container and space, is that then I'm infusing it with all of these higher vibrational energies that I have been, creating within myself. And I'm so happy to share. And they can feel that. And then in addition to that, I'm sharing with them the reason behind things. Like the reason I want you to go in nature is because on the totem, animals, they are receivers of energy. So they're going to help clear some of those heavy energies for you. And the plants are givers of energy, and they're going to give you a bunch of really amazing energies that feel really good, that are, love and empowerment and growth and joy and all of these things. And then you'll have minerals, and minerals hold and transform the energy. So I'm sharing with them the way to get to that higher vibrational space, and real easy. That's the other thing, is the majority of people, what you and I are talking about, I feel like, you and I could talk for days about this. I feel like you and I could hang out together and have a really fun weekend of talking about all different things that have been coming to us, and messages and experiences that we've had, and people who just popped in for this brief moment, and the reflection that they showed us and how powerful it is. And I feel like that's really the space, and that's why I love and respect the work that you're doing, through your book and through this podcast, is because you're teaching the new way, the new heaven on earth way of being, and helping people shatter those programs, that are keeping them so caged and so stressed and so angry and feeling so gross and being sick and stuff. And they don't even understand why, and so I feel like the work that I do and the work that you do, we're very similar in that it's almost like we're teaching, this new language, this new way of being. And we're also opening up space, a very safe space for them to do that in, like for them to explore that. That's always my intention, is that it's a very safe, loving, welcoming, curious space that, and there is no right, wrong, good or bad, so it is what it is. Whatever it is amazing. And we're all on this journey and path, and I think for those of us like you and I, and all the others who can feel it so strongly, and, maybe we've been given more time to understand it because we've been in this space for longer. I can share that the speed at which this is happening, especially in 2025, it's just like, it's really, really quick. And so, yeah, I feel really excited and even in preparation of our time together, of course, I looked into you and I was so excited to connect today. And I do feel that, this conversation and what we're talking about is going to have a really big impact on people. And so I'm so grateful to share this space with you and to be invited to have these conversations. It's really amazing what's happening.
Thank you, Jen. I feel the same. I feel the resonance, and it's taken me to another level of appreciation for the work that you do, because there is definitely a need for us to embrace this divorce as a portal. There is something that we will get from being able to see it as something that will transform us. People transform through so many different experiences in life. Mm-hmm. And divorce is one of them. Some people never touch it. Some people never touch marriage in their lifetimes. Some people do not believe in relationships. They come in, they stay celibate, right. They don't even touch casual. They don't even date. There are those who become nuns at a very young age. Mm-hmm. They're nuns by the time they're 10, and they do not have relationships till they pass. So there are different experiences, and there's a lot of self-acceptance. And I agree with you. There is no right or wrong about one relationship, one experience to another. It's about owning, understanding what we have come to actually experience. And it is what it is. We cannot have judgment about it. If we sense the judgment, we can learn to detach from it and become more empty within us, to embrace a new way, our own way, our unique way of being. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing as well, Jen. Thank you for sharing that. And where can people find you when they want to connect with you? And tell us about the masterclass coming up as well.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. So the Solace website, which is Solace, SOLACE, divorce, .com. That has, the book is on there. The book is sold through Amazon, and the masterclass is on there. Thank you for asking about the masterclass. So the masterclass is I'm really excited about it. It's 3 hours and 39 minutes of me sharing all of the legal stuff with divorce and all of the emotional stuff with divorce. And so it's really a beautiful, beautiful space for people to calm any anxiety they have, or if they don't know what to do. Like, and I think again, the programs to go to, it's like, I'm getting a divorce, I need to get an attorney. And I am an attorney, and I'm saying you don't need to do that. You can if you want. But the masterclass goes over, the 4 different ways you can go through the divorce, the options available. It goes through really what you are doing. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm getting a divorce. I have no idea. It's going to be so hard. It's so much. And it's like, it really isn't that hard, thinking about what's in the best interest of your kids and what's fair and equitable for money stuff. And so the masterclass breaks everything down. All of the legal stuff is broken down. Different meditations, different, the emotional stuff is in there too, about belief systems, and a lot of focus on kids, because that is the heart of the work that I do. The masterclass is on the website as well. Anyone can email, Jen at solacedivorce.com. And we have a Facebook page and Instagram, but usually the website has kind of all the most up to date. Like we're starting to do divorce with love mediation retreats, where we're doing virtual ones now, and then and so we have space for 10 couples, for each retreat, and we go through everything, all of the legal conversations. You have your memorandum of understanding at the end, so then we help navigate the legal stuff, but the retreats are for the mediation. And then this year, at the end of the year, we're going to start putting together in-person retreats. And then that's where it's going to get real interesting, because there's so many different options and variations of retreats that we can do. We can, of course, we're incorporating breath work and sound healing. But at the in-person, it's exciting to me, because I think we can incorporate some more of the beautiful gifts of this Mother Earth to help facilitate healing and the shattering of those programs, to really help people shift to that space that you and I have been talking about this whole conversation of really knowing who they are and loving who they are, and being so grateful for every morning, that we wake up and it's like, yay, I get another day, it's going to be so fun, and welcoming the good stuff and the hard stuff and the sad stuff and the funny stuff, and just welcoming it all and being so grateful for all of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jen. I totally agree with you that it's really about getting the information to help things go much, much easier, because there's nothing that is better than going through a difficult time with support, with information that you need.
Yes.
I love that you have this package, this masterclass, that will really provide the information. Energy is data, it's information, and allowing our own self to receive the information that transforms that density into ease, from that 3rd density to 4th to 5th, to allow that energy to drive that day to day in that 3rd density. It is information and support can do. So I always say love cannot be a dirty word. It's, we've got to love ourselves by getting the information that we need to push through whatever down we're going through. Life has its ups and downs. We all go through it. No matter how much you've transformed, there's always down that you're going to have to go through. And how do you do that? It's using the information and the data that is available to us wherever we are in the world. And do you have any final words to say today before we go, Jen?
I think the final words is really, just enjoy the journey, and instead of, externalizing, do what you can to shift inward, spend time in nature, take some salt baths, exercise, treat your physical body amazingly, and love. I mean, that is, when you ask that question, the message that came through is love. And, love is the great unifier, I think, the third dimensional energies are doing everything they can to keep us divided and have fear and hate and sickness and disconnection. And, I encourage everyone to tune into the energies of love, because love always is guiding you in alignment with the fifth dimensional energies, because love is one of the dominant energies. Freedom, bliss, joy, love, gratitude, those are the dominant energies. So love yourself, love your friends, love your children, love your partner, for just being who they are without needing them to be any other way, and releasing all of the attachment to everything, and just allow yourself to soar and have magic in your life and love.
Yes, I love that. Magic is lovely. Do you have an offer for anyone listening to access your masterclass? Were you going to give an offer today?
Yes, thank you. Yes, so I'm going to create a coupon for 20% off. And I will share, I believe it's Bola Love 2025. So I will send it to you to make sure. And if you wouldn't mind maybe putting it somewhere with the episode. Mm-hmm. And then, I would love to gift your listeners that. So that will be available as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I love that. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jen. It's been an amazing conversation.
Oh, it's been beautiful. Your energy is so beautiful. It's so high vibrational, like every single detail. And earlier I saw your nails, and then while we were talking, I saw your rings, and I'm like, ooh, she is a queen. Like, I so appreciated this space. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you for joining me today. I do. And we'll share all the links. We'll share all the links and all the information. And I want to congratulate you on all the things you're doing. And I will definitely be signposting my clients who do need your service to actually contact you. Thank you so much. And I do want to thank, and I do want to thank all those who have been watching or listening to this today, and to really ask you to connect with Jen to support you through times when you need to go through a shift like divorce. It's definitely something that is worth doing. And to also grab Daily Soul Bytes, as well as Shine Soul Shine, in terms of working through these portals and shifting, staying in that place of high frequency. And I also want to ask you to subscribe to Daily Soul Bytes Show. We have new episodes every Wednesday. And I do look forward to connecting with you sometime next week. Take very good care. Bye-bye.